In the society we live in, there are both good and bad people. From a young age, our parents and teachers instruct us to be good. But as we grow older, we become increasingly confused about what it truly means to be a good person. With more life experience, we even start to question whether we should strive to be good. In the real world, there are diverse standards for what constitutes a good person. As a result, many people inadvertently become what is considered bad. Today we will interpret the concept of virtue from the Tao Te Ching. What is the meaning of virtue? What is the ideal good person in the eyes of Lao Tzu? Tao Te Ching can be translated the Book of the Way, or the Book of the Way and of how it manifests itself in the world. In Chinese, the character for Te in the Tao Te Ching is the same as the word for virtue used today. However, the concept of virtue in the Tao Te Ching differs from the modern interpretation. Today's understanding of virtue primarily refers to a person's moral conduct and noble disposition. In contrast, virtue in the Tao Te Ching represents the manifestation of the Tao in all things and the world, embodying the objective principles of the Tao as applied by humans. Lao Tzu's concept of virtue encompasses the idea of obtaining or acquiring something. What is it that is obtained? We can find the answer from Lao Tzu's disciple, Zhuangzi, who explains it very clearly. He says, "What all things obtain from the Tao is called virtue." From this perspective, virtue is the adherence of all things to their own nature or endowment. While the Tao itself is invisible, virtue is a specific manifestation of its nature or endowment. Virtue is the natural attribute of all things. Trees have their nature, flowers have theirs, and humans have human nature. Everything is what it is from birth and does not transform into something else. All things grow according to their natural endowments without losing their specific forms. The myriad forms and natural ecological balance of all things are the masterpieces of virtue. Therefore, Taoism advocates for following the nature of things, allowing everything to develop and change according to its own virtue and inherent nature. The principle of human coexistence with all things is Wu Wei. Lao Tzu's concept of Wu Wei means not to violate natural laws, but to act according to the laws and attributes of things. Everything growing in its natural state according to its own Tao is the virtue of all things. Humans following their own nature and the way of nature is the highest virtue of humanity. Lao Tzu said in chapter 38 of Tao Te Ching, "The master doesn't try to be powerful. Thus, he is truly powerful. The ordinary man keeps reaching for power. Thus, he never has enough. The master does nothing, yet he leaves nothing undone. The ordinary man is always doing things, yet many more are left to be done." Lao Tzu categorizes people into those of superior virtue, the master, and those of inferior virtue, the ordinary man. Those of superior virtue practice non-action, act in accordance with their true nature, and follow the way of nature, not for the sake of fame or profit. On the other hand, those of inferior virtue are always active, trying to show through their actions and words that they are virtuous. Lao Tzu says that, in reality, such people have become devoid of virtue. The world operates by its own rules, and people are born with their innate nature. Those of superior virtue comply with nature and do not force actions. However, if a person insists on crafting their good person label, they actually become devoid of virtue, or what can be termed as hypocrites. In real society, due to conventional moral standards, many people, in order to gain approval from elders, their environment, and society, are forced to learn to disguise themselves as good people by societal standards. But does this societal moral standard truly define what a good person is? Does societal approval indicate true virtue? In reality, when people put on masks and learn hypocrisy, it often breeds sin more easily. Let's take an example. There are lions and antelopes in a grassland. Should we help the lions or the antelopes? If we help the antelope, the lion will starve to death. If we help the lion, the antelope will become extinct. In the face of such a naturally formed ecosystem, not intervening is the virtuous thing to do. It's the same with human society. When a society overly emphasizes certain moral standards, it can disrupt the whole ecology and even breed evil. Take patriotism, feminism, environmental protection, or same-sex marriage, for example. Like Mark Twain said, the government is but a servant, a temporary servant of the people. Deciding what is right or wrong, who is a patriot and who isn't, shouldn't be its privilege. Lao Tzu believed that those acting out of genuine benevolence do not rely on the reputation of virtue or put on a show of morality. Actions based on a sense of moral duty are just for showing off virtue. Actions following social norms and etiquette, if not met with the expected response, lead people to break natural harmony and force their way. Those with superior virtue abide by natural laws, not acting on personal whims. However, those with inferior virtue can't let go of certain so-called moral standards, ultimately disrupting the natural way. There's a story like this. There was a big river ahead, and a senior monk, a junior monk, and a woman happened to be crossing it together. The senior monk saw the woman couldn't cross, so he carried her over. After walking a few miles, the junior monk couldn't help but ask his master, "How could you carry a woman?" The senior monk replied, "I've long since put her down, but you are still carrying her." This is the difference between superior and inferior virtue. Thus, Lao Tzu said, "When the Tao is lost, there is goodness. When goodness is lost, there is morality. When morality is lost, there is ritual. Ritual is the husk of true faith, the beginning of chaos." Lao Tzu believed that society emphasizes virtue only when it loses the Tao, the natural order. This means that when people don't respect natural laws, they need moral standards to restrain them. If these moral standards become mere slogans, benevolence arises. Without benevolence, righteousness appears. Without righteousness, there is ritual. In Lao Tzu's view, ritual is a product of insufficient loyalty and honesty, marking the beginning of chaotic times. Ritual, being a set of everyday behaviors that are easy for everyone to follow, can be easily feigned and exploited, making it a tool for manipulation. Actually, Lao Tzu mentions in chapter 18 of the Tao Te Ching, "When the great Tao is forgotten, goodness and piety appear. When the body's intelligence declines, cleverness and knowledge step forth. When there is no peace in the family, filial piety begins. When the country falls into chaos, patriotism is born." Lao Tzu believed that when society greatly upholds benevolence and righteousness, it signifies that the great Tao has already vanished. When everyone appears clever, sincerity has disappeared and hypocrisy arises. The reason society emphasizes filial piety and charity is that many people have become estranged from their families. In times of national chaos, loyal subjects emerge. In Lao Tzu's view, when a society prominently advertises moral standards, it's because most people have stopped following the natural way. However, instead of addressing the root issue, new behavioral standards are proposed to compensate for the absence of the Tao. Consequently, rules and laws become increasingly complex, leading to societal collapse. From the Taoist perspective, when rulers promote moral standards and governance by law, it turns everyone into slaves of morality and followers of the law. This, in turn, allows those who advocate morality to exploit it for their own rule and control. In summary, in Lao Tzu's view, those with superior virtue have no personal desires and do not prioritize themselves. They are respected and looked up to universally, attracting followers from near and far. Therefore, those with the highest moral character do not regard their virtue as superior, do not hold on to or use anything for advantage, and simply act according to the rules of the Tao, succeeding in whatever they do. If you love this video, don't forget to like, share, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on my latest content. Thanks for watching.